Can you hear me? Is this thing on? Hello and welcome to the show. I can't even pan and get the full deal of what's going on here, but way up there, we're starting with my heavy stuff, and then we're coming down here to the BFS stuff. Now, try maybe right there, you kind of see it, but I'm going to hold up and show you what baits I throw with what. Now, this isn't everything. It's all I had. I dug through my tackle boxes, and I set these in order from the heaviest to the lightest. This isn't, as you can tell, if you just watch my rod and reel arsenal, go back and watch that. If not, this isn't every rod and reel I own, but I've basically got one out of each, we'll call it power rating. Set up here, kind of to give you a display of, so you can kind of see, and as I'm talking about them, where and what I throw with, say, a medium heavy, medium, could be a medium light, whatever, then into a lighter light, and then my ultralight. BFS into the regular bait casting gear stuff. So they're way up here out of the way, but I'm going to start, and that's what I want to explain. What I guess not really even me recommending. I'm going to show you what I throw, how I throw it, kind of thing. And it's up to you if you're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea or not. I'm not telling you that you need to have a medium heavy or heavy to go throw a big Whopper Plopper or for whatever. I'm not going to tell you that you need to have a Cast King Zephyr ultralight rod in order to throw a crappie jig. I'm just telling you this is how I do it. Several people have asked, and I get daily questions on, well, what with this or with that. And I may bring out the scale here and we'll weigh a couple things if there's any questions on, because I'll be honest, I don't know what half this stuff truly weighs. And I did find out messing around with chatterbaits. Half-ounce chatterbait doesn't mean it weighs a half ounce. The skirting material, depending on the size of the hook that it came with and all that, can vary. But let's jump right into it. I'm going to try to get this video done in way less than an hour. Hour and 20 minutes is what my rod and reel. And by the way, that one isn't being able to be monetized. If you guys remember in that one, I'm not going to mention any things. Something happened. I used the word KILL in a joking manner about a CAT. And I think that's why. I think I've only... And that's another thing. We're going to be reaching a milestone here for Bass and Bonsai, including the live streams, which there's not a ton of those compared to the regular videos I put out. Here in the next month, maybe 2 months, we will have reached 1,000 videos on Bass and Bonsai. Now, yeah, back in the day, there's a couple of them got my little nieces throwing on their coat and, stupid, crazy stuff was going on. But 1,000 videos. If any of you have ever messed with making a video, just what I'm doing here, even though it's live, this is a chore to do some of this stuff. And so the hours it takes to edit fishing footage and do different stuff, and I may put that video out. I may come out here with the computer and show you guys like just some of that. But it is and can be a chore. So as we reach that, I don't know, I'm not going to do any, I quit doing giveaways a long time ago. But I may, I don't know, try to do something for that. Let's jump into this video. So if you remember right, I have one heavy rod, but I mainly medium heavies where I kind of start. And I don't truly have an actual jerk bait rod that I love. But that's an 802 that's buried there, by the way, not an 803 NRX. So it's a medium, but the 803 would fit in there, right there with it. So, and some of you guys have asked about the Teton 661. The Teton's kind of popular right now. Bait Finesse Empire's got a little picture. It's for sure Kying Teton. And then they've been questioning how to say Kying, how to say Teton. I say them both probably wrong, but I'm going to explain real quick why I say Kying Teton. I say Kying because just like by, B-U-Y, Kai, K-U-Y, ing, right? Kying. Then Teton should be probably actually the way I'm reading it, T-E-T-O-N should be Teton or Teton. But I say Teton. I don't know, just the way from the first time I read it, that's how I say it. Some people call it Koing, Kying, Koing, Teton, Titan, whatever. I know what you're saying. If I hear that said, I know what they're talking about. An awesome rod. So as we go into this, you're going to hear me, and that's one thing. If I'm bad about murdering, is names of people, names of things. Not very good at it. Perfect example, the TSU. Sonora, whatever you call that. I'm going to probably just start calling it TSU, whether it be a bait or a reel, rod, whatever. Let's get into this, Hicklin. Come on. We're already 5 minutes in. You haven't even showed us a bait. I was showing you all kinds of baits. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Take you a couple pics of this and you see the baits I got. Jumping in, medium heavy class, what I would call, and I will tell you real quick like what lines I use, I guess. 15-pound test is all the higher I go on my medium heavy stuff. Yeah, you could go 20-pound braid or 40-pound. I don't, and with the frogging and all that. So we'll jump right in since I talked about it, frogging. My favorite frog, and I need another one. This one isn't as lucky as the last one. I lost one. You guys believe, I'm telling you guys, man, the confidence is the biggest thing you can put in that tackle box, but sometimes just having what you feel is a lucky bait. But we have the Booyah Popping Pad Crasher. And no, I'm not listing all links to all this stuff. You guys just search it for yourself. I probably got the link somewhere to most of these AliExpress baits in one of my videos in the description somewhere. Booyah Popping Pad Crasher. Awesome bait. I feel it's one of the best hookup ratios I've ever used. And I do have a couple regular ones, but I recommend if you're going to get one frog, hollow-bodied frog, topwater frog, it'd be a one with a popper lip, because I can work this like I would any other topwater frog, and I can give a little pop here and there. I kind of like to try to pop or chug it when I can, but then as I'm coming out of cover, I like to walk it, walk the dog. That's what I like to do with these. These are awesome baits, and that is going to be thrown on for sure a medium heavy or sometimes a heavy. Occasionally if I just feel like I'm in some real nasty stuff, that's when I may, or I'm going to where I'm typically going to be bigger fish, you may see me break out the a heavy action rod like the Cayenne Conqueror. So that right there. And I don't know, I haven't really thought about where to put these things as I'm done with them. I will just throw them down there. So I don't have out any of my zinkers, and I don't have out a lot of soft plastics. We'll talk about some of it. This is kind of just my spinnerbait, chatterbaits, hard bait type things. A few little soft plastics, and we'll talk about more of that. But where that frog I just showed you, a good backup bait to that frog is, if you haven't watched my zinkers video, go back and watch it. It's taking just a 3/0, 4/0, whatever size hook you decide, but rigging it up zinkers weightless and throwing it right where you were throwing that frog. And I would also, depending on the size hook, I would definitely probably go with like a medium heavy. My plan is you've seen the Tatula rod, it's not in here either. But like the Tatula, the 803, one of those two rods would probably be a good way to do that. Something in that, just on the edge, like a stouter medium or medium heavy type rod is where I would go with that. But you might need an SV, MGL, or an actual BFS spool in order to get the casting and accuracy you want with that weightless Senko. Let's move on. And also, as I'm telling you this, it's sort of how I fish a place. I start with the biggest, heaviest, brightest, fastest moving way. I want to come in there, just like Miley Cyrus. I want to come in like a wrecking ball. I want to see what is happening, what kind of action we can get. And this is one of the baits that does that better than anything. The big Whopper Plopper. I believe they may make one a little bit bigger. I probably won't be messing with anything bigger than this. You would be amazed at how small of a bass will hit this Whopper Plopper. The same size bass will hit that Whopper Plopper. When the mood is right, small, big, whatever, cannot stand this Whopper. I think they just can't stand it. It's just come along and they're just like, I'm going to go kill it, whatever it is. Oh, I just said that word. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So Whopper Plopper, though, if they're aggressively feeding in like a morning, afternoon, morning or evening when the sun's coming up or going down, a little low lighting is where I really like that bait. So then, sticking with topwater, as we're sticking with the big rods, I'm going to show you one that, actually, let me finish with what I only recommend 3/4 ounce for. The frog, that Whopper Plopper. Now, you've seen me throw it on the Cayenne 661, but really, it needs to be on a medium heavy. You could throw it on 803. The 802 would be a little bit, you could do it because I'm getting ready to show you a couple baits that you can also do with that. But like if I'm going on any kind of deeper diving baits, a little bit bigger, or 3/4 ounce rattle traps, Booyah hard knocker, lipless cranks, I'm throwing with the medium heavy. I would prefer, and I don't really have one that has a little more give in it just to help keep them hooked once they're hooked, but like that 13 fishing one, it's called a medium, but the rating, I don't know, and the way it feels, it's going to be getting all these duties with all of the what a medium heavy rod would, and it's got a little more give than like my Conqueror medium heavy, and maybe just a touch more give than 803, but it's got a little stiffer tip than 803. So anyway, any as deep as I go, this is probably it. If you guys don't know about this, this is the Freak Lucky Strike Rick Clun Freak. It's custom painted one. Old Norm Coulter. You know I like to mention old Norm Coulter in any of my videos. He custom painted that for me. Baby bass color with an orange belly. Somewhere right there it says it. And it's probably upside down. Come on. In Coulter. Is that thing going to focus? Anyway. Norm Coulter, I don't know if he's still doing any kind of custom stuff or not. And this build's about ready to break. But I have one more custom painted and two other ones. I don't do a lot of deep diving stuff. Booyah hard knocker, Toledo gold color. Man, if this thing could talk. Well, maybe it can. But it has no eyes. It's blind. Eyes don't really matter. Especially when it's made to look like a crawdad, right? Awesome bait. Bigger rod. Now we're going to go into baits that I also will throw with like say a stiffer medium or whatever. If you guys watched the video, and I recommend this bait, it's kind of a Mega Bass knockoff, and it is from AliExpress. It's only like $4, and I got on that crazy spree of catching fish right after fish with it. And it was kind of like if you watch one of my last videos, I talked about that little magic hour where the sun's at its highest and big fish tend to get caught because it's like turned in and reported. That just seems to be that window, right? And that was kind of what me and Charles were doing. And so I got on a tear with that bait. But I was throwing it with the 802. And the 802, surprisingly, it's not that heavy of a bait. I mean, it is, but it's not. So I plan on it. It's a treble hook bait. So technically, kind of anything you throw the Whopper Plopper with, I think this will you'll probably see me throwing this also. Now, I also plan on using this. I'm not going to turn it into a swim bait junkie, right? I'm going to use this kind of like if the Whopper Plopper's not working, I'm trying buzz baits or something else, and I want to slow it down a little bit, but I think top water still may hit. This is probably what I'm going to go to. Or if I feel it's real calm water, I may go straight to this. Or real clear water, I may be like, I'll just jump right to this. But that's where I plan on using this kind of thing. And if this, the S waiver would be something else, the small S waiver, any kind of a smaller glide bait. I don't go any bigger than this. What you're seeing here is the biggest baits I throw. I don't go that big. I like to be able to still catch some smaller fish. So then we're going to jump to just a few baits that, and I guess yesterday I didn't really even hardly talk about swim baits. You know, whether you're using on a head without, I consider a swim bait sort of like a mild or stealth version of a spinner bait, especially these underspins. But if you, of course, if you got a little bit bigger head, a little more weight, a little bigger hook, throw it on. And I feel that either from the 802 up, so like a medium rod with a pretty good backbone is good for, and let's just go through these baits, like your half ounce, whether it be a swim bait head with that kind of hook, no matter what swim bait, whether it's an underspin or not, or if it's a swim jig, that kind of thing, half ounce spinner bait. And then here's the War Eagles are probably my favorite, but man, they're expensive. I don't like buying too many of them, but I had to get that color, just kind of the when it's a bright white, you can't hardly go wrong with white and silver, like no matter what. But if the water's a little murky or it's kind of overcast or whatever, I like going with some gold and some chartreuse added in there. But throw those half ounce spinner baits, and then we'll go to my favorite bait here in 1 second. Man, it's going to be an ordeal putting all this stuff back up. So while we're still on the big one, then of course, you know, your bigger jigs like the half, and I don't really hardly ever, I think the biggest, I may have one in there that's 3/4 ounce like jigs. But whether it be a regular flipping, pitching, swim jig, whatever, I'm doing it on the medium heavy. You can make out the size of hooks. They're actually, most of my jig hooks are probably a hair smaller than as we're going to talk about my chatterbait hooks. My favorite thing in the world to throw is by far a chatterbait. And no, this is not the jackhammer. This isn't even anything Z-Man. This is Omega Custom Tackles Rapture Jig. That's the shellcracker color. I don't recommend getting any kind of chatterbait that doesn't have that blade connected right to the head where it can bounce off of it, other than this thing. I would recommend you guys get one or two. Now I would get the 3/8, and I'll tell you that I was doing a little bit of weighing. Their version, what they're called 3/8, comes very close to any of the Z-Man, especially the jackhammer half ounce, because the half ounce, that's what I was talking about. The half ounce chatterbaits, the Z-Man, the original with the bigger hook, tends to weigh more because I don't think they took that into account. They're counting the lead, and well, I don't know how they weigh them, but my Z-Man originals I've weighed way more than all of the other ones that aren't originals, or these guys, which I'm pretty sure I bought as 3/8 ounce. I think they sell 3 and a 5/8. So on the Omega Custom Tackle, if it was me, or what I will continue to buy, will be the 3/8. And this is my favorite color. I've also got a few skirts coming from AliExpress and some other chatterbaits, but some skirts that are close to that material. And Omega Custom Tackle, they sell jigs. They sell everything. Spinnerbait jig. They sell just the skirts and all that. And I had a few of these floating around. And I'm just going to kind of see what's going on there. But any of your chatterbaits that are 3/8, half ounce, the bigger size hooks, you're going to want at least a medium heavy. I may get into, not this size hook, but the smaller ones. I've talked about it in yesterday's video. I may see if that 802 can handle it, but that would just be something I'll test. And just like I test anything, I go out and throw it, and if my hookup ratio, if I'm missing more fish, not getting hooked up into the boat than I'm catching, it's horrible. Don't ever throw that bait with that rod again. It's that simple. Or if it's anywhere close to you just doubting like that you're setting the hook good, don't throw it anymore. And then this I was going to show you guys real quick. Just kind of any of the Sweet Beavers, the imitation Sweet Beavers. This is Bass Pro Shops version. That is my best trailer I've ever used for chatterbaits. And I've tried, everybody was doing, the swim baits and then this and that. And I guess, I don't know, I was just out of the loop for the longest time of what people are trying to do with these. A chatterbait, I'm not trying to imitate a fish. I'm trying to imitate a crawdad. That's just the way I've always fished them from the time they came out and the way they shook. I don't know if you've ever, I guess, heard or felt a crawdad shake. Like I've had a few in my fish tanks before. When they take off, the crazy thing that their tail doing that flapping does, the closest thing that replicates that is this blade, not a spinnerbait. A spinnerbait, I don't know what thump that does. So I'm rigging up my chatterbaits, even one of the little ones, as you'll see here. I'm not saying you're not going to be able to catch them in with whatever plastic. And I will say this real quick. I don't think I've ever caught a bass on a bigger chatterbait just like that. I've always had something on the back in order to catch him. And I don't know if it's just how it's riding in the water column, if it goes too high, even it going slow. I don't know. I can't explain that part, but I may have to try that one day. Just go out and throw just chatterbaits, no soft plastic attached. Just see if I can catch a fish. Now I have with the little ones. I'll talk about that shortly. But so I'm trying to imitate a crawdad with my chatterbaits. If I want to imitate a fish, I'm throwing a swim bait, an with or without the underspin, a spinnerbait, or then I'm going to like a crankbait, as we'll talk about, like the little square bills. That's just, I don't know. And I'm just going to stick with that because when I was doing the testing with the jackhammers and this and that, and I put swim bait tails on, upside down, tried all this and that, I feel my overall confidence in chatterbaits went down. I'm going back old school, black and blue, probably with the gold blade, the Rapture one you just saw there, my old standbys of like a white and chartreuse when it gets murky, and then the Bayou Craw. I guess I should talk about that color real quick. Hang on. My favorite color, and I've kind of went away from it because black and blue is pretty hard to beat. This is going to be a long video. Where in the world did I put them? Huh. You guys ever lose something? Like it's there? It's right where you think it should be, but you can't see it. All right, here it is. Hang on 1 second. I just wanted to talk about this because I got a new trailer we're also going to be trying out. You guys can be looking forward and seeing if you guys might want them or not. So here, for probably, well, chartreuse and white is a hard color to beat, right? Take that, beat up guy. Chartreuse and white is actually a hard color to beat for any spinnerbait, chatterbait, whatever. But I'm getting real finessey and I'm trying to imitate a crawdad that I think that's Bayou Craw. Cajun Craw, Bayou Craw. I always get it wrong, but I think it's Bayou Craw. And they've changed over the years. It used to be really just a yellow. And now it's kind of a, and I think it'll be okay because, and honestly it matches this. I just picked these up off AliExpress, LT Fishing Store, which is hooked up with the time, I guess, or whatever. But these, I finally found a decent size. I may end up cutting them down, but wherever they'll fit right and go like I want them to. May have to cut a couple, you know, start back in here somewhere. But these are like kind of like the Z-Mans. They're made out of a real stretchy material, shouldn't wear out as much. Because if there was one downside to anything you put on, I've tried the Bass Pro Shops, I've tried the Reaction Innovation, Sweet Beaver, or the Smalley Beaver's the size also, the Smalley Beaver. So these may not be as well because they got flappers and I could always just cut the part that flaps off it and just try that too. But you will go through these. Like when you get on a good chatterbait bite, these will start going to the wayside. And I've tried the palmetto bugs are too big. The bugs are, or the palmetto bug is way too big. The little bugs are way too small. So I'm going to give that a shot. But yeah. But those color matches are almost perfect in that color. And that's a color I almost didn't get looking at it on the pictures. Okay, so now we're kind of branching into other stuff. That was pretty much it, other than, let me show you some. Here's my rejects that I don't like. I still have them in my box, and I'm actually going to pull them out as I was sitting here going through it. That thing should work, right? It's got a little flappy thing. You can throw it out under anything. This thing, look how cute it is. Oh, isn't he cute? Oh, look at you, you little cute thing, you. Sucks for hookup ratios, for me anyway. I throw that thing, fish hitting it all over. Ah, man, hookup ratio, see how high that is? I don't know if that is what it is, but man, this bait is horrible. I do not like that bait. So it's out. I know some of you guys probably love this bait. I don't like this bait. I mean, yeah, the theory, you can throw it. It's basically like a Whopper Plopper, only where a frog could go, right? But I just do not like this bait. It will still, that will get jacked up when you're throwing into the gunkiest of stuff. And I just, something about it. And I feel that once you clear anything, like say you want to throw it in the junk and you're coming out and you want that fump, 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 like, or I don't know. I don't have as much confidence in that thing. Probably going to throw it out also. I'll show you this. A lot of guys go with like a no skirt on a buzzbait. I've tried it some, just not a fan. I feel that this actually is harder and you can't reel as slow than having the skirt. I think the skirt works like an umbrella. In my theory, in the way it feels to me, that skirt works like an umbrella and it helps hold that. You can run a buzzbait slower by just a skirt and nothing else on it than you can with a skirt and a trailer or whatever. So when I throw a buzzbait, and I'm going to show you a nasty version one. I actually throw, and I like these. And I've heard people say different ways, and I think this is one place where I think it was me and, not that he cares, but I was listening to Matt Allen talk about those, tactical bassing. And the old school guys, I guess, don't talk about it bringing up anymore. You hear that? That squeaky noise? This blade is the best you can get. See, there's somewhere there's a patent number on it. And I think that it's a patent. But the way it runs through the middle, this side and this side's flared, I just like these the best. And you can tell this one's bent up and turned and probably... But the magic forever for me has been in a buzzbait is right there. See where those two pieces of aluminum meet? And mine's probably ready to get worn out. right where they meet, and as that turns, creates a squeaking. And so you want this, so I'll put videos out on that also. I didn't invent it, but I've copied what the old guys used to do. I know I'm an old guy now, but make sure that won't spin, and then you want that broke in and just like that. And then this one's kind of was a custom made one that's tied on. It's got this crazy kind of like a finesse jig thing going for it. But I've caught some big fish with this, and it'll catch a lot of fish. And sometimes just when a buzz bait isn't really working right, like say my normal buzz bait would be chartreuse and white or white, not all black usually. I feel I don't have as much luck with black topwater baits as I do with white or chartreusey color. You know, I like brighter topwater baits. But sometimes that just works. But I prefer old school buzz baits, you know, just that blade exactly on whatever skirt you decide the color you want to try. And I don't run I don't run a trailer hook. I don't run any kind of trailer on my buzz baits. And I try to I want to throw it. And if you do a buzz bait right, you can actually throw it. And as you pull and stop it, like they talk about doing with the little Dr. Frankenstein to keep the hooks from fouling up, you can throw that almost where you could, not necessarily a frog. You have to have a little bit of water surface, but right across the tops of some grass. And if you start pulling it right as it's landing or just before and you're already pulling it towards you and start retrieving, it'll skim in the, you know, you don't need a bunch of water, and you can be skimming that buzz bait across, and you want to get it to where you're cranking as slow as you can to where it's riding on that surface. And man, it can be deadly at any given time. Okay, I'm taking too long in between each bait. Look how many I got here to go through. We're already almost half hour in. These I just picked up. I'll be trying out. And also, I guess I mention that these buzz baits and all these I really like on that, like the medium heavy. You could probably get by with the medium, but you need good hook setting power. Could get fast and furious. These I just picked up. I've got 3 of them. One they sent to me in as a gift, and then I bought 2. But they're from the Time also, or LT Fishing Store off AliExpress. They're soft. I don't think I have a problem with getting a hit. I just don't know hookup ratios and how long the plastic lasts. So I'm anxious to try these suckers out. That'll be on that bigger rod. So that bigger rod is done now. Everything else you'll see could be thrown with the bigger rod, but you'll probably have more fun throwing it with something a little bit lighter than a medium heavy. Say if you got a medium heavy with a lot of flex though that you think would be fine. And I'm going to show you, here's the hardest thing to find a rod to throw. Right there. 1/2 ounce jerk baits, right? That is a true Megabass Vision 110 square bill version. It's got the square bill. I've had that thing forever. It's caught a ton of fish. It's one you go hunt down when something, you need you feel a square bill should be, or square bill, you feel a jerk bait should be working. Try that. Need fairly clear water. It doesn't have to be super clear. But this one is probably my favorite overall color. And it's the RC Sticks, which is a Megabass knockoff. I don't care what anybody says. I think Rick Klein, do you guys know the story? I think Rick Klein was sponsored by Megabass. And then when he wasn't sponsored by Megabass anymore, all of a sudden Lucky Strike come up with a lot of baits through Rick Klein, that resemble some Megabass baits. Just saying. Anyway, awesome baits. 1/2 ounce. Jerk baits are probably a medium rod, but it's finding a medium rod that fishes them right. Finding your right length, the right handle length, the right action of the rod. It's a trick. I'm still working on it. You can do it with the 802. It's a little too soft. 803 is actually, which is considered medium heavy, but it's got a soft enough tip. Yeah. So no more talking about those. I'm going to start setting bait somewhere else. I'll have a huge pile of everything hooked together. So then we'll go with topwater. This is a Pop Max. And being it's a treble hook bait, I honestly feel you could go way down on because it'll cast. You don't have to throw a ton of force into a cast. Now, the lights might be a touch, if you guys know what I'm talking about, the ultralight light tipped rods might be too light. So, but the Kind Teton 661, this Lure Star feeling rod that I've got would be perfect for this. And any of your mediums. Medium heavy would be overkill just for the fact that it is treble hook baits. The treble hooks aren't, I mean, they're stout. They're fairly big, but you might be overkill with a medium heavy rod. Unless it's, like I said, it's a real soft, moderate action. Same thing with, and I'll get these out of the way real quick. Kind of same deal. Smaller Whopper Plopper, I believe that's the 90, I think. Pop Max, that's the Megabass knockoff, or a Megabass, they're bigger, S-Crank, I think they call these, the standard size, and they do make a smaller one. That's an awesome color there, except it got flaked off. Norm Coulter didn't paint that one. I bought that off eBay, custom. Flaked off, still works, still catches bass, catches fish. And then also, to get it out of the way real quick here, all these, as you can see, kind of treble baits with that sort of hook. The old original rattle trap, half ounce. Those things caught me a ton of fish. I've kind of went away. I kind of just throw the 3/4 ounce, and if it's not biting, I jump to the 1/4 ounce, like we'll talk about here in a minute. But there was a time when all I threw, like I said, all I threw was like half ounce type baits on either a stiffer medium or medium light, medium heavy rod. I mean, I just threw it a ton. And this is one of those baits that has lasted that many years, I think. Or it's been replaced and then another, it's probably the second or third version, because I think one of them was blue, but they make them in different, like some of them got a blue top, but they're basically silver with the blood. They had some blood, whatever they called these. So anyway, all these baits, like I talked about, I feel that all of these could be thrown with this feeling rod, no problem, or definitely the 802. You're a little bit stiffer or oh man, that is hooking me right in a nerve. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. that was crazy. I was hooking me right in a spot that like felt like it was already in past the barb. Let's jump to something a little bit lighter. Like, so then when you go down to these smaller ones, these are definitely, we'll just stick with the cranks. Like your Little John, your flat side Little John, the Lucky, I keep getting mixed up, Lucky Strike or Lucky Craft. Lucky Craft, basically like your 1.0 or a size bigger, 1.5, probably before you get to the 2.0 or the 2.0s. Those two rods cover all that. Your Wiggle Warts, some of the rock crawlers you guys have seen, or close to that. And then this was a cool little bait back in the day. Probably with your light, medium rods, all these kind of baits. And I've got a bunch of different little, what I call my mid diving. They're not what you call deep divers, but they'll go deeper than like even the big square bills. They'll go deeper than that. So that is about all on the hard baits that I suggest, the medium or the medium light or light. So then we'll go, here's another underspin or swim baits when you're dealing with a little bit smaller hook. You got a little bit less weight, hook size a little bit smaller. I have confidence that this rod, the light, even though it's a light, it's kind of on a close to medium light range or mediums, would be that smaller. And I want to say that's a 1/4 ounce, but I'm not, don't quote me 100%. I want to say that's a 1/4 ounce head. And then your Biffle Bug Heads, the broken necked heads, those kind of things. You're kind of dealing with like a shaky head, but when you're dealing with the soft plastic hook through that Texas style and you need to set the hook hard, you probably want to at least here, but probably better off on like a medium rod. Like that 802 would be perfect for throwing this and this. And this, just a regular swim bait. That's still pretty sharp. That jig's old. Or your regular little swim baits around this size. This I would probably throw first more on like the light. I wouldn't quite get down to here. Probably throw this no problem on the 661 Cayenne Teton though. And I don't even know what size that is. Whatever size that is, right there. And then then you're into a little bit smaller jigs, little round head jigs. Is that a Jewel? No, that's a cheap Rogers one, but kind of like the Jewel baits when you're getting into those 1/4, 3/8. They got a bunch of different they got all different size, but that little bit smaller hook. But you still got a weed guard to get by and stuff like that. So I would recommend probably more on your medium, like the 802. I don't know. I may try it on that rod, but who knows? I'd swing more towards the mediums than the medium light. But then when you're doing shaky head, then you can go to any of them. The 661 is where I start, not on any of these other light rods, but like 661 Teton, the feeling for sure. You can even jump into this. You can even do it with the 803. That hook, I have not had an issue. Now, you don't want to set it with, say, like a 15-pound test in mind. More like you're fishing with 10-pound test, the VMC, finesse rugby jigs, shaky heads, whether they're 16ths and 8ths, whatever. It's a light wire, but easily set the hook and should not break or bend anything out if you're roughly fishing with 10-pound test. But you don't want to go, and I've tested it, you don't want to go any lighter. The 661 Teton's the best one. So for your zinkers, you can actually rig up cut his zinkers in half or TRD or whatever, rig it up weedless on the zinkers is what I recommend. But then these wobble heads, I want to talk about them real quick. I don't have the little one out here. I took the little one to the little creeks and streams, if you guys remember, and I used it this color with a real bright swim bait deal. And like the biggest bass I caught there that day was on these are called wobble heads. If you've never heard of them, they're awesome little baits. I'm not sponsored, don't really associate with the people. I do know that the company that started out either went bankrupt, sold out, whatever. Somebody else took over or bought them out, and they're a new version, and they actually make these, which are more like a pro version. And so you can get these. Now, they come with like a split ring, just like your crankbaits and some of that stuff do. I take that off because I use snaps, and I snap right to that. But these I recommend, that size hook, even this big one. Now, this big one you might want to go up, but you'd probably want to throw them with the medium. You could get by with the medium heavy. All you do is hook a worm on the end of this. Now, I haven't went crazy and hooked a full zinkers on one of these. I might want to try that. Actually, I need to try that with this one. I take that purple haze zinkers, rig it on this blue deal, and throw that around a little bit. Because they create this crazy S. They call them wobble heads, and they kind of wobble. But what they do is they kind of make something, in my mind, swim like a snake. You would picture a snake, or you've seen snakes swimming through the water. Awesome baits. If you have not... And they make different sizes. They make the littler, I think they make 3 sizes. But look them up and you guys see for yourself. I would recommend at least, I've got them in my arsenal and I occasionally throw them here and there. So the wobble heads. I would recommend that the bigger size, the biggest size for like a medium. That pro version could be thrown on a medium heavy. But then the littler ones I threw it on, I think the Zephyr or the 522 SUL. One of those two, I threw the small one and had no problem with that. So let's go to one of my other favorite baits. That's just a 1/4 ounce lipless crank, right? Rattle trap? No, you can't call it rattle trap because it's not made by Rattle Trap. That's also a Booyah hard knocker. Awesome little bait. I have more faith in the bigger baits. When it comes to rattle traps, lipless cranks, I just feel the bigger ones. Because I don't know if you guys, I showed you that nasty looking 1/2 ounce rattle trap. That thing's caught so many little bitty bass that even though you're downsizing with these, it's like that 1/2 ounce one gets the job done. But I do have these occasionally to throw, and you'll catch fish on them, but I just feel that it's almost one of those baits that doesn't transition as well as you decrease the size. I feel the 1/2 ounce and the 3/4 ounce are just a better chance of catching a big bass, and will catch little ones if they're in the mood for lipless cranks. But you could also throw this in, if you just are... that the bite is small or you're really struggling, you're looking for a bite, sometimes it does not hurt to downsize. This bait I just picked up, I have no idea how well it's going to be. It reminds me of something they used to sell, came with the tail feather on it, but was crazy expensive. And I found these that's a metal bill with holes in it. I found this on AliExpress for like $3.50. It had to be worth a try. Little wake, topwater type bait. Little, not big treble, so I'll probably be throwing it on this guy just for the fun, have fun with it. Is probably where I'll be throwing that. My favorite possible, I know I say a lot of favorites. This, last year, the year before, on the King Teton 632 ultralight rod and the Aldebaran BFS XG, it was game on. I was tearing them up. And I lost that bait. This bait is a replacement, and it's not the replacement I wanted. For some reason, my luck, just like that frog, has not been as well since I replaced that bait. As you can tell, this one's fairly new. It doesn't have a lot of wear. I mean, I've done okay, but one of the downsides is shortly after I picked this bait up, I got into these smaller poppers. So that could be also why. But that is excellent bait. You could throw it. I don't know if I'd throw it with an ultralight. But definitely this light is probably the most fun. Yes, you could. It's got big enough hooks. You could get by with your heavier, 661 would definitely throw it no problem. But the 632 ultralight, or if you've got a stiffer ultralight, or definitely any of your lighter light rods, it's just more fun and awesome to throw. That bait is like once you go from the Pop Max to this little Pop X, you can get just I don't know if I'd say more bites, but sometimes you can. Sometimes you can get more bites with the big one. Depends on what mood they're in. Awesome bait. Let's stick with the hard baits while we're at it. Now we're kind of getting into the, I guess, honey. Well, let's finish off with this guy. Here's just a small, like a little 1/4 ounce buzz bait. Awesome little thing. You cannot really throw it with regular gear. So as big as the hook is, you're going to want to throw it with your light, or medium rods with a actual BFS reel, because otherwise it can be a nightmare to throw buzz baits. All right, let's go real quick. The Dig It. You guys remember this. I'm not going to talk a long time about it, but I've always been trying to find a replacement for this ever since Cabela pulled them out of their lineup. That is my favorite crankbait square bill anyway to throw, period. I've just picked this one up. Don't know if it's going to be the same. Probably not, but it may come close. Also, these Rebel flat-sided ones have some crazy hunting action. Definitely wouldn't be bad to have in your lineup. But see the size roughly I'm talking about here? Same thing with these. Different bait, not a square bill, but more of a jerk. That's a Mega Bass one. Here's I believe that started out as a Berkeley, either scatter wrap, jerk wrap, whatever they call these freaking little things. Definitely erratic fishing little baits, kind of like a little but deep jerk bait type thing. But roughly all that size kind of thing. I'm not saying you can't throw it on your lighter stuff, but probably this rod right here, or the Teton 661, perfect for that. Actually, the Teton 632 ultralight would do it, but the 661, this rod, or almost any other heavier light rod or medium light rod that's got a little softer mid flex to it. Awesome for that. This guy I kind of had in there, but he's probably closer. You definitely can throw him with this. You can actually get by with a lot of those with this, but these little jerking things, I'd recommend something a little stiffer. You can get a little more jerk, but for sure, like the Dig It and the other cranks, you can throw on the CU double with the light tip, or the Toma with the light tip, especially this guy. So as we transition down, I talked about that guy, get him out of the way. I talked about that, move him. We just got a few more here of the bigger size, and we're going down in size. And then I'm going to try to get this video done within an hour. We're at 43 minutes. So here we'll start with, this is the micro chatterbait. So if you hook a big trailer, right, it'll be easier to throw on bigger gear, but you almost need something bigger in order to get the hook set, because they may not have it in their mouth right because you got so much plastic there. So even though, as I'm getting ready to show you, I'll throw it on lighter rods with a smaller bait on, with this configuration, it's almost, what rod was I? I was throwing this with the 13 Fishing, I think, doing pretty good. Because the hook is stout enough to handle a good hook, but yet small enough. This is just an awesome bait. But like on this, I would definitely stick with probably like this rod or bigger. If I'm putting a bigger chunk of bait on here in order to make sure I can get a good, solid, powerful hook set. So I'm going to leave that one there for a minute just so I can get my point across. Same thing with this. I'm going to show you guys here in a minute the little Ned Heads TRDs. But the minute you're adding skirt material, it's got a weed guard in there, you kind of you're going to need to yank harder to make sure that all that gets out of the way and you get that hook set. So with this, even though it's about the same as the, oh boy, where does it go? Oh, as a regular size, Ned head I'm getting ready to talk about, I recommend it. Like you might be able to get by with this or like this, but definitely a light, medium light for those is what I recommend. And I'll leave that set there for now. So talking about that, well, let's jump to, like if you're just fishing, smaller, there's another, that's the Chatterbait Micro. The ones with the eyes, they look kind of like a miniature jackhammer. They do have eyes, they're micros. The minis are 1/4 ounce, these are 1/8 ounce. The I don't know, I'm not saying you can't catch them, but on the micros, I found that no skirt, you don't want no skirt, and you want some kind of soft plastic, whether they're made to look like a frog, or my favorite way is I found what I like these bugs for the best is to put them on there and just fish them like that. Like I've told you, the chatterbaits, I'm trying to imitate a crawdad. So I want to imitate a little bit of crawdad, maybe a frog, whatever. But when you're using these smaller little baits, I feel that the funnest is with a light. The one like this, the CU Double, the Toma are the most fun. Now, when I'm throwing these, I don't really, I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but I don't want to really use them on the ultralight rods. I want to use those on, and this is perfect. Now I could get by, like I showed you, if that one, you could use on these others. I could cast and throw them and set the hook good with these others, but I'm just out fishing for fun mainly, and so I feel I won't lose any hookups with that, like the CU Double. So I definitely like that for those. So that's why I kind of have it there, is like all that. And then speaking of soft plastics, I'm going to show you here in a little bit. So I'm going to move this one. Well, this one is kind of, you want to hook up on something with a little bit bigger hook. And there's another one there. There's what they look like with nothing on them. That's just a micro, and it's not very micro in the size of ultralight stuff for BFS, but as far as in the chatterbaits, that's what they call them, micros. E-Man Micro, it's one with the eyes, the little one with the eyes. So let's go from that. I'll talk real quick about why you throw a little bit heavier with this, but then when you're dealing with that little hook and there's nothing there, you just have a TRD on it, or say you decide to put a bugs or whatever, and it's wide open, and kind of like a crappie jig would be. I feel that then you can get by with either of these rods really. I'd probably rather like on this, but like the Kind Titan 661 on down, no issues. I have never really felt like I've had a hookup issue with these style of hooks with the TRD. I would probably rather I'll probably throw it on like the Toma or the CU Double light over this. But if I'm going to the little creek or stream and I got this along for the ride, it's going to be getting with the Rock and Roll or the Zephyr for hook sets. But it could also be used if you're just like, well, I'm going to fish it a little more powerfully. So there's nothing wrong. You can get by with setting it with even up to a medium, like I mentioned it, but you need to have that drag set. Like if you have a drag set too tight, that hook is not a real heavy gauge. You could straighten it out. All right, let's jump to another topwater bait. You guys have seen this one. I got 3 of them now. I rigged up the, these are that little miniature Jiangku Whopper Plopper. All 3 of mine that I have, 3 different colors, I've rigged up with the barrel swivel ball bearing, because it'll work fine. You'll cast it out, and if you reel it, not too fast, it kind of leans a little bit, so I may add a little weight, try to get it to come at me straight. It has a little lean to it, but it doesn't twirl. But problem is, you cast out, and everybody, you're 40 foot from the boat, but you're 10 foot past where you had cast to, where you thought was a strike zone. So you just want to reel it back in, get back out. It'll twirl like a beast, and it will mess your line up. You definitely, if you fish with one of these, you want to add these little, you either want to use a snap swivel, is the easiest way, just have them, but for me it's easier. I already have a snap on. I don't want to have to cut that snap or put a swivel, so I just have these rigged on to the bait already. That is an awesome bait. You've seen me doing with the Toma. This rod is perfect. You might go crazy. I'm not saying you can't, because the Zephyr gets stiff fairly quick. But for me, I would probably throw it on anything that's light. Light came with the medium. Came with the ultralight or light tip. With the light tip, the Kind The Teton 661 would also be a perfect for this. You could probably do it though, no problem. And you may see me at some point throwing it with one of my, or a few of my ultralight rods just for the fun of it. And while we're talking about top water, I'll jump to this one. This one I just picked up, some of these little pencil baits. This bait I plan on throwing on with, see those little hooks? I plan on trying to set the hook and fishing it with some of my ultralight stuff. I plan on taking these. It'll be one of those transition baits kind of like this one. I'll talk about it real quick. I plan on fishing for fun in the bigger bodies of water, you know, if the bite gets a little tough, but I'm still trying to catch something top water because this will catch it. This will work good. So you'll be seeing me fish these baits probably with my ultralight gear. And we'll just try it. You know, if I can't keep them hooked up with this, then it'll go, which would be perfect. You could be perfect with your light gear. No problem. The light rods. But what I love fishing probably the most is like this guy with the all the ultralights. Now you can do it with the light. I would not put either of these baits. I wouldn't go to like the stiffer lights, the medium lights, the mediums. I would not throw nothing with that heavy with. I wouldn't throw these guys with anything like that. And while we're talking about cranks, kind of like this little dude, you guys seen him in action? I was actually throwing him with the Zephyr. Now he's got big enough hooks. You could throw him with this one, no problem. I wouldn't throw him with that. You could, but I think it's overkill. I've had a video out where I was casting some of these littler cranks. I feel it's just it's got a soft enough overall, because it's kind of almost, it's not a fast, but it's not really a true moderate action, but it would have no problem setting the hook and casting it, but it's more fun on like the light. But I was using it with the ultralights, no problem. So if I'm throwing that with the ultralights, you know that I'm throwing these with the ultralights. These are that smaller little 4 gram little square bills. There's Dr. Frankenstein. That is the original still, by the way. I still have him. I haven't lost the original Dr. Frankenstein. Now, I've got several others the exact color and then several that are different colors. But those I'm going to throw with ultralight mainly for fun. But this would be a good option to your light rods. Teton 661 will do it. In my opinion, it's almost a little overkill though. A little heavy of a rod for those. So all these other baits as you're seeing here are also in that category. This guy I just picked up. It's not a light bait, but it's not heavy enough for as big and bulky as it is, so it's probably hard to throw. So my plan is to throw it on the lights. Now I might go, if it'll throw it on this may be the one for as big as it is, but it's got the one hook. This might be something that is hard to get a hook up on, but we'll find out. I'm going to cast it. It's kind of with that other one I had out here. It's new. I've seen them before. I just picked up a few different. It's kind of like just below the surface, crazy deal, right? So I'm going to try it out and we'll see what happens. But the baits that I know for sure, like that is a baby Pop X, can be thrown on either or. This, like I talked about with that Sonora popper. And those of you that if you haven't watched the videos to tell the difference, that little Sonora one is actually even smaller than the baby Pop X. But definitely you want to throw those on your lighter stuff. And then I was going to show you, this is an excellent little swim bait. They got crappie sliders, bass sliders, walleye sliders, or whatever. I think these were called the bass sliders. And that color kind of mimics a baby bass. But you definitely, this is something like you rig it up on one of these smaller the micro chatterbaits. Awesome little bait right there. Continuing on, we talked about those. Here's another one that like a little bit bigger crappie jig. Like that's a little bit bigger hook, 1/8 ounce with an underspin on it. You can rig up all different kind of crazy tails, whether you're crappie fishing, bass fishing. A lot of your crappie stuff is excellent for little bass with the BFS stuff. Then like the mega bass, I don't even know what they call that. With the blade, 16th ounces I think the weight. But yeah, that size hook. You want to get, probably not this, but here and even possibly that one would work for that. And then there's a few of these little bitty jerk baits. I'd had a video out on these. These are awesome. These actually work. I think this one caught a fish, but I like the looks of this one a little bit better. But right here is where I would throw those. You can get by, and I probably will be throwing these on the little creeks and streams. But if I'm out on bigger water, like you saw in the video, I'm probably going to throw it on something like that. It's kind of like the poppers and all these, you know, depending on the water, may also affect which rod I'm deciding to throw with it. But then when it comes to, I'll go jump real quick to get this video over with. We're 55 minutes in. Golden mud carp. I don't know. I'll share the link again. The Chatterbait Micro lipless baits. Yeah, I don't know. The lipless cranks, I don't have as much. I like the big ones. 3/4 ounce Booyah hard knocker, I feel will catch me a bass this big before a little 1/4 ounce or any smaller lipless rattle trap style bait. I just do. I've caught some little bitty freaking bass on that. And look for the video. There's an insane video. The place that me and Charles went got skunked once, almost skunked because it was cold water. Last year when we went, I caught so many bass in a little area, and I'm sure a couple of them were like little bitty bass hitting that big 3/4 ounce rattle trap. I mean, I don't know. So anyway, yeah, Jay, I'll share that link. Let me jump though now and get this video over with. And you've seen yesterday, if you haven't watched that video, I put out, like, I think I have 6 to 8 ultralight combos now, or the ability to make them into ultralights if I use some of these other reels with the BFS spools or whatever. So just baits. Oh, I forgot all about this bait. Okay, hang on. That was the killer that did all the damage in the winter of a hard bait. The zinkers and this dude just, once that water got cold, other than maybe a couple here and there spitting and sputtering, just like nonstop were destroying them, was that dude right there. And that's the Proberos. It was like $2. Those are, I'm telling you guys, get some of those. I have a couple in different colors or whatever. Awesome little bitty square bill. Perfect for this. This is what I was throwing it on. That rod, and I tried on a couple different things. I felt this rod is almost overkill, but perfectly capable. I mean, you could do it with the 802 over there. But man, it's just like, it's fun. You can really let it load that light rod up and cast it a long ways. Doesn't have to be that real, but that rod, it just feels awesome with that rod. I'm sure that I don't think I even threw it with the Tomo rod. Tomo rod with the light tip probably get close to the same way. You could throw it with that, but like I've talked about before with square bills, I'm typically wanting to throw them in a little bit of around wood and stuff. So I like something. I feel the ultralight's maybe a little too light. Now, if you're in open water or going through little light grass, then you can also change what you're going to be throwing something in. So let me get through these little baits real quick. I picked that one up. I haven't even tried it yet, but it's kind of like a very small. To me, it's the smallest crankbait I've seen for the size. It's not much different than the Doctor with that big a diving lip. So I'm hoping that'll bring me some good luck as in catches. This little dude, I don't remember the brand name of that guy, but I have caught I don't fish it a lot, but I have caught some fish on that. Ultralight Crank 3. It's a nice little bait. I just don't use it. Same thing with this guy. It's like, I don't know if I've ever thrown it, and I threw it in a video and I like caught a bass like right off the bat. And Bomber, this is like the same one that Charles hooked me with. Left it in my on my bag. I got all the way home and got hooked. But that's like the Bomber 3F. I can't remember what that said. Now this one, I can read it, but I can't read it. Let's hold it up and see if you guys can read it. Who put that in the way? Hang on. Won't focus, my thumb's in the way. We're going to try to get to focus. I can read Rebel. Can't read what that other thing says above it says. Anyway, that is a nice little bait too. Works good. I've had it in my box for I don't know how long. Finally threw it and caught some fish on it. But those are kind of, I use on a lot of different places. You know, I downsize, but I'm still fishing it kind of everywhere. But when I go, I've found when you go to like little creek streams, you're talking little panfish, little bass. The biggest fish you're going to catch might be 1.5 pounds. You almost need like a whole nother level BFS, true ultralight or super ultralight or whatever. Now you can still get a lot of these. These little guys are still okay, even a little TRD, and these little jerkbait type deals. But you kind of want to even get to this level, this small, little bitty 16th ounce type baits. Then you can get into basically crappie jig type stuff will work fine, no problem. But then, like if you guys seen another video I had, are these called flashback? The real little bitty Z-Man makes these real little bitty chatterbaits. That one's hooking me. Sharp hooks. They come in, I think, I want to say 3 different sizes. Don't quote me 100%, but I want to say this is the smallest, like a 16th. And then I think they do make an 8th with the shiny head but no eyes, kind of like a micro, but like this style instead of the micros with the eyes. But for little creeks and streams, you want to stick with pretty small. Like there's a trout magnet. I'm not going to fish. I might fish it just for the fun of it. But then you go into like even a smaller poppers I plan on using. So you'll see me on those little creeks and streams probably using this, but then you'll also see me using that little bitty guy. Like you hardly, I've almost come to the point where I'm not going to throw, and most of these baits I won't throw out on bigger water. I'm just kind of building my little creek and stream. I plan on putting a whole nother box together. Now some of these baits I'm going to leave in my regular box and I'll pull them out to go when I go to creeks and streams, just like some of the higher end reels that you'll see me pull out kind of thing. But like this little dude right here, and that's kind of why I'm throwing in the little test you see me always doing. This little guy, I've got several of these now in real good colors. Small little crank, smallest crank I'll throw. Then the next size up, like this little crank. I'll try to hold them up so and I think both these can be bought from the same place. Definitely smaller, but awesome little cranks. Yeah, there's that focus. I consider this still kind of like a square bill. I know it's not really, it's a copy of the Yozuri bean or something, I think. And that's a true like square bill. Look at that. Look at the eyes. Sad puppy dog face and like mean, nasty. Awesome baits. I've definitely caught a bunch of fish on this. This guy, not so much, but I think he will produce. Then, of course, you heard me talk about the crappie sliders. They're always a good option. Bunch of different colors. You can get all that stuff here locally. Then there's a make your own, like Charles was sending me pictures. He's tying some different flies up for trout fishing and stuff. And then he says I think he's trying to make his own chatterbait, but you can take just a basic, any kind of crappie jig type thing and do whatever. I think I went a little overboard on this. I probably shouldn't put near as much gold on it. I was trying to imitate, they make a fly. It's basically got a little bit of, it's got like a gold bead, a little bit of red wrapping with some gold, just like what this is. But it's not real thick, and I think I put too much on here. Man, I tore them up back when I fly fished. So I was kind of trying to imitate that. Of course, you could take this head, and I recommend, well, I like the red head, but you can get the lighter ones also, and rig different soft plastics on this. You're just going to use it to let it go to the bottom, basically, and stand up like you would a Ned rig, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Now, that's probably too small. But, different soft plastics kind of deal. And then this is one bait that kind of I use everywhere. That's the BPS XP or whatever, XPS lineup or whatever. You can get it at Bass Pro Shops. That's a cool little bait too that works and can go, little creeks. Also, I will throw it on kind of any of the rods, the lights, the ultralights, and works real well. This guy I just picked up. I don't know what this thing will do. I may need, if it starts getting hit but not hooked up, I'll do away with that. This is a trout thing, I think, where guys use the single hooks. I'm not a single hook guy. I know I stick myself every year and I cuss them and all that, but I like treble hooks. Treble hooks will stick those fish just like they'll stick you. All right, guys, hopefully that was a long video, over an hour. I didn't plan on it being that long, but hopefully you got an idea of and that's not 100% everything, because as I start talking about stuff, I didn't hardly go into any of the soft plastics. I have a bunch of different trailers that I use on the end of my chatterbaits. On spinnerbaits, I don't use any trailers. Chatterbaits, I like something that's flappy like a crawdad, preferably. I will occasionally put swim baits on. I didn't really go through any of my swim baits either. I do have a bunch of different swim baits even about the only Guggen bait I think I still own. Some of the different sizes, whether they're 3.8, and it just depends on what length as to what size, what jig head I'm using, whether it be a chatterbait head or those underspins you've seen. But then, as I get out of here, because I need to wrap this video up. Oh, I forgot all about these little goofball dudes. I've yet to try those either. I don't even know what they are. I'm about ready to make another order through Meredith, but I just haven't done it yet. Meredith Baits has very affordable on AliExpress. Meredith Baits has very affordable swim baits that I've done pretty good with. I tried them last year. Make different sizes. The colors are kind of, you got to you have to look on there, but look up Meredith Baits is what I would put, and they'll probably start bringing them up. But here's a color that I really like. Like that. Good bait, good color. Yeah, they're just like the Keytech, whatever. They're not going to last like a Z-Man stuff, but these are pretty affordable for as many as you get, and they got a bunch of different sizes, 70, 55, 70, 80 mil, I don't know. They got a bunch of different sizes, like the Swing Impact Fats. They got the big ones to the little bitty ones. I think these are regular, like Swing Impact style, but little skinny, whatever. They got a bunch of different ones. Meredith baits. I recommend check them out and see if you think you might want any of those swim baits. But that's roughly everything. How I fish, what my mindset is, to where I go. But like I mentioned, I go there. I'm hoping for a topwater bite, but I'm not really upset if there's not a topwater bite, because then I'm jumping right to chatterbaits, and I'm hoping there's a chatterbait bite. But if there's not, I'm not really upset, because then I'm going to square bills of some sort, and I'm hoping there's a square bill bite. If there's not a square bill bite, I'm starting to get ticked, but I'm still not upset totally, because I'm going to the worm. The zinkers, I'm throwing it kind of aggressively. I might have to slow down, and I might have to switch to other stuff too. But if that zinkers ain't hitting, and I'm throwing, say I get real finessey, then I downsize even further down to true BFS size stuff, and I'm throwing the Dr. Frankenstein, I can't get hit. I'm throwing a TRD and I can't get hit. Then something is wrong. And I've had those 2 days this year. It was cold weather from the same place. I've managed one fish on the zinkers, and the other day me and Charles both got skunked. But usually somewhere down that chain of how I'm fishing, something hits and sticks. And that's why I recommend you guys try it. Because I've also found that if you go the opposite way, say you're like, oh man, the bite's going to be tough. I know the bite's going to be tough. So you jump out there and you throw a worm, and you're sitting there in the first 50 yards, you've wasted an hour, and then you tie on, you're like, well, they ain't hitting. They just ain't biting today. And then somebody throws out the brightest, craziest lure that is loudest you've ever seen, and instantly they start hitting it. Because it can't happen that way, trust me. I suggest start fast, however you start, with whatever, and then slow down as you need to. And you can slow down quick. Put the brakes on quick. If you're, throwing a buzz bait out there and you're buzzing, and it doesn't take me that many minutes to realize and kind of tell if you don't hear or see any kind of top water activity going on. It doesn't take me long, whether it be a Whopper Plopper, buzz bait, frog, if I'm throwing up in gunk or whatever, to go backpedal from that into something that's just going below the surface, or top water that is going crazy slow. Pop Max, Pop X, Baby Pop X, down to these little Sonora, wherever that one popper went, and then either try something like that. So backpedal, but stay on top, stay bright or whatever, but then go down from that. Maybe even go to, you've seen those natural ghosty looking ones I've got, or just then jump to a different level in the water to your chatterbait, spinnerbaits. Maybe they want a real subtle. Maybe they want a swim bait, more natural looking, just swimming a swim bait kind of slow through. Or maybe they want a swim bait going fast. Change that up. Also, same thing with the Whopper Plopper. Start fast, big, giant Whopper Plopper. Like, man, they don't want that. Well, if you still want to catch them on a Whopper Plopper, downsize to the little bitty guy, something like that. And then if you just, keep slowing down is what I do, and keep, you know, turn down the lighting, slow it down. Let's get some mood music going on. Maybe I don't want to throw this bright guy. Maybe I want to find one that's more of a subtle, more natural color, maybe even a little smaller. And maybe I want to work it a little slower is the mindset I have until I find out what they're hitting. And it will change. You may get somewhere and it may be lights on, everything's going good, biting good, and you're like, I'm on it, man. They're hitting this. Or you may start with the chatterbait, man. They're tearing the chatterbait up, and then the bite just go. Whoosh. And usually, in my mindset with that is, the bite didn't shut down. On the chatterbait, it did. They're going to be hitting something throughout the day. They're not in the mood for the chatterbait anymore, or they're not in the mood for the topwater stuff. I think in any body of water at any time, there's fish somewhere biting, right? Kind of like the old drinking saying that, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. It is always 5 o'clock somewhere on the body of water you're on, whether it be a little creek, a stream, a pond, little pond, big lake, little lake, river, whatever. It's always 5 o'clock somewhere. There's something in your tackle box. If you've got a tackle box loaded up, there's a bass somewhere in that body of water you're on that will hit that bait that is in your tackle box. You got to figure it out. Everybody talks putting the pieces to the puzzle. I don't know. I ain't putting no puzzle together. I'm out on a hunt, a search, a quest. They're talking about these are tools. They're kind of, yeah. But this is whether you call it a sport, hobby, or whatever, this is the fun. I'm not trying to, if I want to put a puzzle together, I'd throw on a piece of puzzle and I'd be out here putting a puzzle together. As I get out of here, and this is a crazy long video. Eddie says, stop lying. All my videos are at least an hour. Well, this one went over. I didn't mean it to. Jay said he's had good success with the Meredith swim baits. Yeah, some of these baits he said Jay says I have what did you say? Have an awesome bunch of interesting baits. A lot from Allie, a lot just over the years, and if you guys the power, and here's another thing, I got 2 things to talk about, then I'm definitely out of here. And a bait is only as awesome as I guess you think it is, but it can be awesome if where you're fishing has never seen that bait. Like some baits stand the test of time, but then other baits, the minute they see it, like it's never going to be as good, I guess is what I'm trying to say, at least for a few years, as the first time they've seen it. So let's take, for instance, let's talk about 2 baits right here. Let's talk about this before I get out of here. Actually, we could talk about 3 because the chatterbait, just a regular size chatterbait, not the little guy. Yes, I'm old enough I wasn't around the very first year the original chatterbait came out. Like I don't know, I'd taken off. I was kind of into hot rod cars there for a while, but my cousin Matt was. And so Matt, he's like, well, yeah, I'm going to throw in a chatterbait. I'm like, what is a chatterbait? So he showed me one. I'm like, oh man, let me see that thing. So I think I went and bought one before we went fishing, and man, it was like game over. That chatterbait, for those first few years that chatterbait was out, oh my God, insane. It's like this bait. First, when the Whopper Plopper, Larry Dahlberg, and first, I seen him like testing stuff before they even came out to Whopper Plopper. I used to watch the Hunt for Big Fish. Any of you guys ever watch that? And I seen him fishing with something just like this. Like he designed this. When this bait came out, oh, game over. Little, big, I don't care what it was. If it was a bass, it did not want this thing to come tumbling through the water at it. It did not want none of it. It would smash this big one. Little ones, whatever, they all worked. Same thing for this. The bodies of water I fished when I first got into these Pop Maxes. And if you don't know about the Pop Maxes, one of the main things they do, I know they kind of can spit water at you or whatever, but what had my most luck with was walking the dog with this big popper. And I call it big. A lot of guys call it small. I call it a big popper. And you can tell how chewed up this one is. It's caught a bunch of fish. But not only when it doesn't just do this coming at you. every time it does this, it does this. It's got it also twists, so it flashes whatever color the side kind of to the fish. But man, when they first see this, this was my best day ever fishing, period, I would say. I guesstimated over 100 fish on this bait. I never took it off. I had to retie like, I don't know how many times just to make sure it wasn't going to break off. I'd start getting nervous. I'd like catch fish. And after like 10 fish or something, oh, better. And it wouldn't even feel bad. I just retied just to make sure I wasn't going to lose this bait. And it was insane. It was the first day I went fishing with, I think it was a couple firsts. It's probably why. First day I got that baby bass, my boat, and fished with this on this body of water I fished. And it was game over. It's never been that good since, but it still has its days when it's an awesome bait. Same thing with the Whopper Plopper, Chatterbait. Some baits just never get bad. Other baits you may like start, I don't know, for whatever reason, you feel like it started kind of hot and then it fades away. Anyway, guys, if you got any questions, feel free to put them down below. I may answer them, may not. Who knows? I'll try to if I get a chance. I gotta go to dinner tonight. We're having a dinner thing. You got Outback Steakhouse. You guys ever go there? Blooming Onion is the only thing I know of that I think I like from there. But anyway, going to Outback Steakhouse. So I got to get this wrapped up, get everything put back because I've got a mess going. Yeah, I kind of missed that show, Larry Dahlberg, Hunt for Big Fish. He was also one going around with like huge, just hand pour. Like he poured his own molds, and Larry Dahlberg was one of those guys. You think I'm a little whatever? He was like beyond insane about and with fishing. I guess I don't know. Is Larry Dahlberg still alive? I'm sure he is. He wasn't that old, was he? All right, guys, get out of here. Go bass and bonsai. Whatever you do, go buy some more baits from AliExpress. We need more baits in the world over here in the United States. And I'm out. But before I go, and I'm not associated with anybody, but I will give a shout out. If you guys haven't, I talked about it briefly, Bait Finesse Empire. Okay, I'm pretty sure I said that right. Bait Finesse Empire. They're on Instagram. They got a site. They sell. I don't think their name doesn't quite suit yet because I think I'm on the same the Facebook group I've talked about. He's on there. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I can't think of it right now. But Bait Finesse Empire is fairly new, selling some stuff, and I think he just posted on Instagram that you can tell it's a Kang Teton handle. But I would suggest looking there. If he's got something you want or need, ordering it from him. Because here's my thoughts, because I'm not going to do it, but it would be nice, and he's maybe willing or possibly planning to work up to that point. It would be cool to have, even if I have to pay a little more money, everything that basically you can get, whether it be from AliExpress, Tackle Warehouse, whether you're using it for BFS or whatever, it'd be cool to have it here within a couple days shipping. So I'm not sure what all he's bringing or what all he's planning on doing, but it would be very nice if, say, he carried these and I'm out there this spring, and next thing you know, even though I have 3 or 4 or how many of these I bought, and this goes on fire, and I run out and I want to pick something up. Here's what I like. I like the ability to have because I fish weekend to weekend. Just how I do it. I got, work 5 days a week. Sometimes I'll go through the week, but usually Saturday and Sunday now I go fishing. I want to be able to, whatever I ran out of or whatever I just, had a light bulb go on that I want to get for the next weekend. I like that ability to order it and have it to me, whether it be Tackle Warehouse or whoever. And kind of Tackle Warehouse with the whole pandemic and all the stuff, they kind of started to, let me down anyway. Not that I ordered that often from them. Yeah, Outback is good, but overpriced. My girlfriend knows that. That's why she's like, get your pocketbook, get your wallet ready, she told me. Because she bought dinner last night. We went up to La Fuente's and had Mexican. She's like, you want to buy tonight or tomorrow night? I was like, I'll buy tomorrow night. We got all these kids. I said, you buy tonight, I'll pay tomorrow night. But anyway, yeah. So honestly, for I don't know, you can get this on AliExpress. But say if Bait Finesse Empire had it for $3.50, $4, and I was out, And I was like, oh man, I need one for next weekend. Because you know, AliExpress, you're about a month and a half away from getting these. A month for sure, usually. So just the ability to have a lot of that bait, or even rods for that matter. You know, say you got a, I don't know, say you got a CU double. Boom, you break the light tip being a moron, or your freaking girlfriend smashes it. She thought it was an ugly stick and didn't want you going fishing, or whatever happens, whatever reason, you snapped it and you're like, man, I wish I had one for next week because I was really on a little bite, man. They were hitting this and that felt awesome. Yeah, I can throw it with my $500 NRX rod, but it just isn't as fun. Well, if he had that rod in stock and you could get it within a week, that would all, not necessarily priceless, but these are like $35. So say if he wanted $55, I'm not saying I wouldn't pay it. I'll just put it to you that way. I'm kind of tight. I like to try to save money, but if anybody knows me, when Charlie, and I'm gonna speak to myself in what do you call it, third person. When Charlie sees something he likes, he usually ends up getting it. And if he needs it like tomorrow, the next day, that kind of stuff can happen. I think that's just the way people are around this world in general. That's why the whole Uber Eats and the this and the that and the Amazon can get it to you in a day, and while they're making tons of money right and left, you know, that ability to, I want it right then and there. Yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Check out any local places also. I know I talk about AliExpress a lot, and I'm definitely out of here after this. But any of your local places, even if technically if it's a Bass Pro Shops, even though they're sucking right at the moment, or Cabela's, I wish they would have stayed separate, my personal preference. I hate going to Cabela's and I see Bass Pro Shop stuff. But Cabela, you guys sold enough of your, not calling it junk, because Bass Pro Shops does have a lot of good stuff, house brand type stuff. But no need to push it all big time. Like, get you a little spot for your stuff, but put out what everybody wants. It's amazing when I can go up north to Rogers Sporting Goods. Let me give a shout out to them. I can go up to Rogers Sporting Goods, a smaller mom and pop fishing store, and have more that reel. I don't think you can find that reel at Bass Pro Shops. Rogers has like a higher end and just better stuff than this huge chain store that should be Bass Pro Shops. It should have a lot of stuff. I went up there. I couldn't believe, well, you know, COVID. You can't blame COVID on everything. Oh my God. Come on now. Stock your store. If they can't supply you with these, order something else and fill your shelf. They're like half the shelves are full. And even when they were full, it becomes more and more BPS this, BPS this, BPS this, BPS this. Oh, look, a St. Croix. Like, come on. Anyway, guys, I got to go. Ride's here. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.